Why, hello there. Today we're going to be talking about this chair that I'm sitting. Why can't I talk? The chair that I'm sitting in, the Quantum 4Front. Brief overview for people that may not have been following the saga for the last year and a half. I ordered a new wheelchair. You can get one every 5 years through your insurance. It took, how long was it? I think it was, I've been making notes about things. I think it was like 6 months before I got the original chair, but then it arrived with the wrong backrest, so I couldn't use it, and it was like the end of the year, so some other things happened. And then I found out that the chair I got wasn't occupied transport rated, which means you can't use it in a vehicle. So they replaced the entire chair. Then I got the replacement chair, and it had some issues with the motors, so they swapped the motors. Other things happened, I forget exactly what. I was having a bunch of errors with the chair. It kept stopping for no reason. And the DME was kind of upset, and at one point they were saying a lot of things to me that shouldn't really be said to anyone, even if they're your frenemies. So it's been in and out of the shop like 6 times now, and the motors have been replaced 4 times. Anyways, we're gonna pick up 2 days ago. I dropped this thing off for repair again. Oh, yeah, and the last time they replaced the motors on the chair about a month ago, they broke a bunch of parts in there when they were doing it. That turned into this whole other thing, and they were gonna try to bill the insurance company for the parts that they broke, and it's a mess. So those of you that have been watching, you know it's insane. I have a friend that owns a mobility shop, and they both told me, why are you getting a Quantum? I don't like to brand bash. I've got a 6000Z in the garage from 2012 that's like a perfect chair. These are just my experiences. So anything I say in regards to this chair is my experience. Now, would I personally recommend that somebody go out and buy a Quantum or a Pride product based on my experiences? I would ask you where you bought your drugs and if I could have some. Anyways, we're gonna go over today. I had to get a backup chair set up. That's this C300 over here. And this video is basically me going through what I had to deal with over the last couple days. I know, boohoo, it wasn't too big of a deal. They only had the chair like maybe 20 hours. But we actually had a favorable result. And the chair right now is put back together with the level of detail that I argue should have been done in the first place. Loctite was used, proper parts were used, and they actually listened to the words that were coming out of my mouth. So, happy about that. But let's start off here when I was crawling around on the floor trying to get this thing set up as a backup chair. Not doing anything interesting today, I'm just talking about this chair and trying not to be too visibly annoyed. I feel like I'm a patient person most of the time. Okay, so the 4Front is out for repair again. And they're not doing loaner chairs at this point because Rona or whatever. And you might say to yourself, well, Dan, you've got a whole house full of wheelchairs. Why would you need a loaner? Well, none of them are set up to fit me properly. And not only that, after I get the 4Front back tomorrow, it's gonna have to go in for repair again in a couple of weeks because they're having to order more parts. Tonight and tomorrow, they're repairing what they broke on the chair, the DME, when they replaced the motors a few weeks ago. And they didn't have the parts in for fixing the other problems, so it's gonna have to go again and again after that when they get the parts back. And then potentially another time after that, because the leg rest thing, they're gonna have to order or maybe get something custom made from Quantum. So I figured it'd be good to have at least one chair that's set up to fit me properly. So I've got one of the C300s here. This was gonna be a donor chair because I was looking at taking the 3G seating off of this and putting it onto one of the Amy Systems chairs and sort of making like the ultimate power chair. But the problem is 3G seating can't really be adjusted to fit me properly. I am 6'1", but I kind of have some weird proportions as far as like trunk and leg length and stuff. So what I'm doing right now is sort of an off-label adjustment. The problem I was having with this one was seat depth. And I needed the back or the seat depth to be longer. But if I pull the leg rest out further forward, then the chair's not going to fit in the house very well. Because I needed probably about 2.5, maybe 3 inches of total depth. As you can see here, we've got adjustment holes, but this is the last adjustment hole. You can't push the seat back any further. So what I've done here, I guess actually you can't see some of it. There's a bar that goes all the way across, and then these go on top and tie in with the side rails. What I did was I unbolted this entire bar, and there's usually 2 bolts, one on each side of this one here, that hold it in. I slid the whole thing forward, put the 2 screws back in, and there's only 1 bolt now on the back on each side. And the front one is floating. It will not interface with any of these holes. Also now, we can't get a bolt hole in here or here. So this obviously is going to affect the occupied transport rating, and I'm not going to be using this thing in a vehicle, but it'll at least let me get the seat pushed further back and fit me a little bit better at least until my other one is done. What I'm going to do right now, this is the recline actuator, and normally you've got these adjustment holes here, but right now the hole I need to use is right about here. So I've got the drill charging up, and what we're going to do is drill a hole under this plastic part right here so I can get that 1 bolt in. Because right now there's only 1 bolt holding the entire tilt actuator on. It's underneath here. So we're going to adjust this a little bit, and then I've got more of a curved seat back I can put on here as well. But I suppose like getting older or whatever, I mean, things tend to change a little bit. And a couple of the chairs that I have that used to fit me fine don't anymore. So at least I'll have this one set up as a usable backup in the meanwhile. And while it's not, I mean, I'm effectively destroying the occupied transport rating, but in my opinion, that's worth it to have a chair that's comfortable that I can use that doesn't make my back hurt. Because when my lower back starts giving me problems, the autonomic dysreflexia kicks in and then bad things happen. So anywho, yeah, fun stuff. This drill's almost done charging here, and then we're gonna make some more mods on this thing, and I should have a functional backup chair. Okay, I've removed the screws that hold this plate in now. And you can kind of see here, there's 1 bolt missing here. That would normally interface with another hole that's here, but since I just slide this forward, it no longer works. That is attached to our tilt actuator. So I've got a ratchet strap now that's gonna hold the back of the chair up and steady. And we've pulled off this plastic plate here that normally goes right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unbolt this, and then I'm gonna put a mark here with a Sharpie. And while this is off of there, so I don't damage the threads that are in here, we're gonna drill another hole right about here. Yeah. Okay, now our tilt actuator is loose in here. So you can see this metal plate is no longer connected, and you can't really see it, but I've marked with a Sharpie right there. So I'm gonna drill that hole. This is some pretty tough steel, so this is gonna take a little bit of doing. And then we can pick up the threads that are right here. And then we'll have 2 connection points, which is better than 3 and way better than 1. Okay, well, the 4Front is back. And like I was saying yesterday, I thought for sure, hang on here, I thought for sure there was gonna be more repairs in a couple of weeks because they had to wait and order parts, you know, to replace the shocks and stuff like that. But they pulled in the local Quantum rep when I dropped off my chair yesterday, and they've replaced basically everything on it again. The only thing that hasn't been replaced at this point is the main controller. So we got yet another new set of motors installed. They replaced the motor mounting plates, the anti-tippers, anti-tipper wheels. They took apart the rear casters, cleaned everything out there. I don't remember if they said they replaced the caster angle sensors or not, but they cleaned all that out. We've got new shocks on here. And interesting note, they said they gave me the new version of the shocks, which these are the non-adjustable ones that my first Quantum had on it. And that was the chair that didn't have the occupied transport rating.
all of the newer chairs that have this different back on them usually had the adjustable shocks. Apparently there's a couple different versions of the shocks, but they were saying that maybe I had the light shocks. I'm not sure what that means, but anyways, these are non-adjustable now. So it'll be interesting to see if the ride quality is any different. Because when I got the second chair, the ride quality was better, and I assumed it was because of the different shocks. But anyways, we've got this wishbone arm, I guess it's called, has been replaced.
Basically a whole bunch of stuff. But they went and replaced all the bolts. They Loctited everything, which was great. Went around and verified that none of the bolt heads were stripped. So that was good. And all of the work was done with the oversight of the Quantum rep there at the DME. They also got on the horn, I guess, and talked to the Quantum tech. Apparently there's a new firmware update. They've been having some issues with people complaining about their chairs and maneuverability on carpet and things like that. So I guess they loaded some new firmware on here that's supposedly going to help that out. It'll be interesting to see, you know, if that's changed anything or whatnot. They did unfortunately have to detune the chair a little bit. To my understanding, this is sort of like a test to see, like, they weren't blaming me saying that, you know, the way I had the chair tuned up was like breaking stuff, but they want to be able to say, hey, look, we've had it with the stock settings, you know, for a while now, and we're still getting errors, or maybe we're not getting errors, I don't know.
Oh, and also, apparently they replaced the foot plates as well. The material was pulling up off of that. It was kind of interesting though. One of them was like, well, it's rubber attached to metal, so that's kind of a thing that happens. Yeah, have to tighten that up a little bit, no big deal. But yeah, anyone I know that has one of these chairs complains about this stuff coming loose, so we might be able to use some of these holes here and add some tie-in points to hold the edges down or something. I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna hop in and see how it is. Okay, here we go. When I'm indoors, this is the mode I normally use. It's a sport one I set up, and our speed is at 2 clicks down from the top.
So here we go, initial impressions. Is it different? Actually, feels about the same. There's maybe a tiny bit more lag going from a stop, but it feels a lot smoother actually. So one of the settings that I changed was what they call the soft start. When you start moving, it does, well, exactly a soft start with the electric motor. And from the factory, it was set to 500 milliseconds. I wound up dropping it down to 100 milliseconds to make it a little bit more responsive. But apparently, the new firmware update that they put on here addresses that issue. So they put the soft start back to 500 milliseconds. He said I may not even notice a difference. And I can tell a little bit, like it's maybe a tiny bit slower when I start moving from a stop, but it's a lot more linear and it feels a lot smoother. Huh, interesting. Yeah, I guess they were having quite a number of issues with people being able to maneuver on carpet and things like that. So they pushed out this firmware update to kind of change the voltage and amperage curves and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we're actually doing all right. Let me turn this up all the way and see. Oh, actually. Okay, I like this firmware update. No way. I can actually turn now. If you have a Quantum 4Front, take it in and tell them you need the firmware update. I don't know what it's called or whatever, but there is one out there, and it makes a huge difference. Quantums are notoriously hard to program when it comes to turning and acceleration curves and things. And they actually nailed it. Okay, cool. I keep saying I'm gonna get sound deadening material for this room, but I just haven't done it yet. So we still have the issue with the leg rest not extending all the way. And we've got an independent confirmation now from 6 different people saying that Quantum does not make leg rests that go longer when they're elevated. The only potential solution to that is changing the seat depth a little bit. With the way I'm sitting here right now, my legs are basically just touching right here. There's only about an inch of adjustment left, so I don't know. I might have them try that. All right, well, I'm gonna use this thing now and see if the errors go away. I have a feeling we're still gonna get the motor output defect errors because, oh, I forgot to tell them when I was there.
every time I got those errors, it wasn't when I was moving. It was when I was stopped and then just started moving is when I would get those errors. They were concerned that the way I had the chair tuned, it was potentially causing an issue. So we'll see if that comes back. By the way, fine print here. See those little tiny lines of text? That's like 100 something errors that this thing had on it. Mostly traction control, joystick out of center, motor output defect, brake not connected, motor not connected, under voltage. I was kind of pushing for them to replace the main controller since that's been the one constant since the beginning. I've had 4 sets of motors on this chair now. I will say though, we don't have nearly the amount of slack as we did before, and we're not getting the weird clicking noises. Well, as loud. Anyways, initial impressions. I'm gonna use this for a few days and see what happens. The experience today was actually really good. Overwhelmingly positive, I might say. I was a little bit concerned at first because they called me and they're like, hey, can you come out here right now? The Quantum rep's here and he wants to talk to you and we need to discuss some things. Just very kind of matter of fact and to the point. And I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen? I was like, I need an adult. I want someone to come with me. But they were super cordial, friendly, and let's just say the experience was probably as it should be, and I hope others have a similar experience. There may have been some outside influences in my particular case, and that's the one thing that drives me insane. Yes, well, I don't use NewMotion right now, but for example, NewMotion, there are some people that have a good experience there. I would say there's a lot of people that don't. But what I don't like and what I can't stand is when you have a good experience only because there's been some outside influences. I'm not going to name specific things in this case, but that's the kind of thing that really annoys me. I really wish that everyone could have a good experience and I'll be treated the same. You know, preferential treatment over one person versus the other. I mean, I understand their jobs and like they're in a difficult position a lot of times. You know, they get people in like me that have a chair and you know, you rely on it. You have to have it. I happen to have backups, not everyone does, but you know, it puts everyone in a tight spot because, oh, well, anytime you do anything, it's gonna take 3 months. So yeah, I understand that they're having to deal with people that are upset, but you know, I'm happy that this was taken care of. My only hope is that other people are going to be getting the same level of treatment as well. But anyways, enough of me yapping for now. I'm gonna use this thing, see what happens. The leg rest issue, I don't know what to do about it at this point. I would feel like a jerk if I was like, oh hey, you know, thanks for doing all this, and well, how as weird is that? I'm thankful for the chair working the way it's supposed to, and I'm thankful that the stuff that got broken was fixed. But it puts me in a weird position to where I feel like if I go in and say, oh hey, thank you for all that, but I still can't use the chair because it doesn't fit me. Makes my brain hurt. I'm only this far into my coffee. And by the way, just random one-off comment. Nobody knows what causes Tourette's, how to cure it, what makes it worse. Caffeine has nothing to do with it. I'll just say that. That's gonna seem out of the blue to a lot of people, but just go with it. Anyways, I'm gonna get some work done and then we'll see what's going on here in a little bit. I just realized I never really went over this C300 and what I did to it to make it fit me a little bit better. So let's move it over here into the light. By the way, I'm driving this chair with one hand and I'm using my elbow from the arm that's holding the camera to drive the Quantum right now. This is our C300. You may notice that the backrest is pretty short now. What I was showing before, I basically had to increase the seat depth so that the space between where your back is and where your legs are is longer. By the way, that is an air rifle. It's basically a pellet gun. Don't freak out. Or you can, I don't know, whatever. I made the modifications. I drilled some holes so I could extend this thing back. Permobile chairs have your back fabric. And then most of them have this giant plate that hooks on the back like this. And your back fabric goes on here. and this is height adjustable. There's sort of a latching mechanism here on the back, and you can pop the screws out and set them at all these different heights. Well, this thing has a little bit of thickness to it. So I completely removed that, and we attached the back fabric directly to this rear seat pan. So that gave me probably about 1 inch of extra clearance on the back here. So that was basically my solution. Ripping the whole thing apart, drilling a bunch of holes in it, making it arguably not nearly as safe, you know, as it would have been previously, but it fits me now, ish.
Like I was saying before, my proportions don't really mix well with Permobil 3G seating, and that's kind of why I got the Quantum to begin with, is it supports ADI backrests, which their factory stuff works really well for me. It's got a bit of a curve to it, and it holds me in place and everything. Part of the injury I have is also lower back, and my hips and low back have to be held in a pretty specific position. So those backrests do that. To put those on Permobils, you have to add a whole bunch of extra hardware, and you lose anywhere between 3 and 5 inches of seat depth, which makes the whole chair a lot longer, and it's like $800 worth of hardware, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So I figure, hey, Quantum's got this new thing. It looks kind of cool. It's got suspension made by Fox Racing. Let's go with one of those. Something about hindsight.
So we ripped the lid off of this thing, made some modifications, and now I have a backup chair that fits me as proper as it can. And I can use this for a couple days at a time if I need to. But yeah, there you go. Pretty easy mod for this thing. I don't recommend you do it, but it is possible to adjust these things beyond their range of adjustment and make them work.
Also, years ago, I had a C300. Where did I get that one from? I think it was a dumpster find. Yeah, but it was when I weighed like 317 pounds, and I was over the weight limit at the time. And I couldn't adjust the chair properly, so same thing, I drilled a bunch of holes. Boy, did I wear that chair out in 8 months, though. I mean, it works, but whatever. I'm just glad I have all this stuff at my disposal to do things like this. Again, going back to the levels of service, and you know, how it seems as though not everyone gets treated the same. You know, without going into this, it makes me so angry, the state of how, you know, durable medical equipment, that's what DME is, companies are in America. I mean, over here on the West Coast, it's like fairly good, but man, do I get some horror stories from people like in Texas and back east and stuff, and you know, they don't even let them take the chairs outside. And to get a chair funded by the state, they have to like sign over their estate when they die, and like, there's just all this insane stuff. So, not going into the reform and everything that needs to happen, while it is annoying that this situation's going on with my chair, and I do have backups, and you know, I'm getting along okay, I'm glad it happened in the sense that I've been able to document all this and show a long history over more than a year of how things can go. I mean, I don't have suggestions as for what people can do about it other than just being vigilant. And you know, you got to walk that line between being super annoying and a jerk and calling them twice a week and being cordial and friendly. You know, when you get to the point where they see your name on their caller ID and they're like, okay, we better get this thing taken care of. I'm tired of hearing from this guy. You almost got to get to that point before things happen. My situation and all this stuff that's been going on, and people have been seeing these videos, I got the rules changed in 7 states. The entire West Coast, Montana, I think Nevada, Idaho, Alaska, Hawaii. This particular health company now, they will not let you take a chair for delivery unless it has an occupied transport rating. So that's a huge win. That was just kind of a side effect of all this, with me talking with people and a couple different insurance companies getting involved. So, you know, at one point, people at the DME told me, you're just one person. What are you going to do? I was super proud to be able to reply to that with a very definitive answer. Well, funny you mention it. You guys are not going to have any chairs coming through here anymore that are not occupied transport rated. And you can thank me for that. I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm, what's the phrase when you're pretending you're better than you are? But anyways, again, situation sucks, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad this has happened because it's helped out a lot of other people. And actually having videos documenting all this. And, you know, when I started from the beginning, I had kind of a weird feeling. And every encounter I've had from the beginning, whether it's phone calls, in person, conference calls, everything has been either video and or audio recorded. And, you know, I'm glad I did. Because when I've had to deal with my lawyer, I pulled up some of this stuff and said, hey, here's what was going on. And records have mysteriously gone missing in some cases for things that have been done. And, you know, I'm able to pull it up and say, hey, here's what happened. I'm not telling you to go around shoving cameras in people's faces, but at the same time, again, I don't have other recommendations as to how to solve this stuff other than just being vigilant. You know, there's a skill to pressing forward without stepping on people's toes, I guess. And that line gets a little bit blurry. It definitely has in my case. I mean, yeah, I was on a conference call at one point, and the things they were telling me, it just got my brain in knots. And I was like, I just hung up. Because I got so frustrated that I knew I was going to say something I'd regret. And it takes a while for me to get to that point, and things have to get really out of whack before I can't deal with what's going on. I've dealt with a lot of interesting things in life, and a lot of things with, you know, wheelchair related stuff and medical vendors and doctors and all that in the last 8 years or however long I've been in a chair now. But when it gets to the point that I can't deal with it, something's seriously out of whack. But anyways, there's an update for you. The chair feels good now. I mean, the parts aren't loose and things have been Loctited. And, you know, I'm hopeful it's going to work. Again, the leg rest issue, I'm leaving that out of the equation for right now. It took a couple of weeks last time after the motors were replaced before the errors started coming up again. Hopefully the new firmware takes care of that. We'll see. I still really like this chair. It's one of the few I've been able to sit in and be comfortable and not have my back hurt, not trigger the dysreflexia when I'm going over bumps on the sidewalk and stuff. So we're going to continue on. And yeah, hopefully, again, this sheds some light on things and helps maybe give people some tools or know what to expect. I mean, I don't like saying, you know, go into a situation expecting the worst and being pleased by normalcy. Is that a word? But I think unfortunately in a lot of cases that's kind of what you have to do. But anyways, that's all for now. I'll catch you guys in a couple days.